videos, and I know it has been a while since I last did a reading for you guys, so I'm glad you're still sticking around, and I hope that you find this. Shuffling out the spread for this month, I saw an image, and for those of you who might be, into movies, the scene that I'm seeing is very similar to this movie called The Orphanage, I believe. It's a foreign film. It's in Spanish, and it's a really good movie, by the way, if you haven't gotten a chance to see it. It's called The Orphanage, okay? A little bit scary, so if you're not into, horror movies or ghost movies, don't watch it, but I feel like it's a great movie overall. So there's a scene in the movie where the little boy, he found a friend in the cave. So he went to this beach, saw a cave, went into the cave, found a little boy. And then his parents told him, oh, it's time to go. And what he has is he has like a bucket of seashells. So along the way home, he leaves like a trail of seashells so that his friend can find his way home, can find him at home. So that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a little boy on the beach. He's by himself. He looks really young, 4, 5, maybe not 4, like maybe 5 or 6, where he's a little bit more aware, and he's at the beach by himself, and he wants to be found. Okay, so he's there looking around. There isn't anybody around, and I feel like, he's familiar with the beach, so it seems like he knows how to get back home. But he has this bucket of seashells, and he's leaving a trail just in case somebody wants to find him. Okay, so right off the bat, that I'm seeing somebody who's like children when they run away from home, and then they get a little bit scared, and then they look back and they're just like, is this the right thing to do? Is this the best course of action? Are they going to miss me? How are they going to react when they find out that I'm no longer there? Or, how are they going to find me? So if I leave and they want to find me and they want to apologize and they want to make it up to me, how will I know? So just in case, I'm going to leave this trail so that they can find me. Okay, so that's what it feels like. For some of you guys, this is you, where you're leaving, dropping hints, okay? And Cancers are very, very shy people at heart. I feel like you have a very indirect way of going after the things that you want. You also have a very indirect way of communicating what you want. You're like the master of the art of subtlety. And a lot of the times what you don't realize is that you're allowed to, verbalize and speak up for the things that you want or the things that you don't want. You're allowed to voice your opinion. You're allowed to, state your piece, okay? And I feel like a lot of, I guess, miscommunications between you and other people stems from the fact that you're not overly, I guess, expressive of your needs, okay? You don't put your needs first. And I almost feel like there's a sense within you where you feel like your needs, your opinions, your thoughts don't really matter. And so you kind of keep it in and you don't express what it is that you want. And it leads to a situation where you feel a little bit like other people don't care. But how will other people know unless you voice yourself, okay? So I feel like for many of you, this child that's running away from home, that's leaving a trail so that he can be found, this child could be you, where you feel almost like there is a situation back home that seems a little bit, I want to say, stuck. It seems a little bit like turbulent, and it seems like it can't go back, it can't be gone back to and fixed, and as a result of it, you have opted to leave, okay? But every single time you make a decision, I feel like you're not 100% sure, okay? So emotionally, you're just like, I don't want to stay in this anymore. And so physically, you opt out or you walk out. But then there's always the nagging sense within you, like, what if, tomorrow my emotions change and I want to go back? What if, a week from now my emotions, subside, and I feel like, okay, I can go back and give it another go. And so the constant fear that I feel a lot of Cancerian people have is that your emotions are constantly changing with the tides. The way that you feel one day is not the way that you feel the next day. And because of that, I feel like this constant changes in your emotional state scares you as well. Okay? You don't know what's permanent. You don't know what you want long term. You don't know if how you feel about this situation is going to be the same about how you feel about it the next day. And so the emotional ebb and flow scares you. And I feel there's a lot of uncertainty here because you're making a decision. Emotionally, it feels really right, okay? But physically, it feels uncomfortable. And what I mean by that is the closest, analogy that I can get to that is a lot of the times, right? We have a feeling, for example, that we're no longer in love with somebody, right? We know for a fact emotionally that we're no longer in love with them. And then they do something really nice and really sweet and it draws us back in and everything is great. And for that day, for that moment, everything feels really right. And so you feel to, isolate you or to like lash out. And then you're just like, okay, my feelings are gone. And so through the motions, through the journey, through the course of events, even like within the same day, there's magnificent, like just tremendous ebb and flow and just turbulence when it comes to your emotional state. So I'm inclined to say that you're not really sure emotionally what you want. I feel like rationally, you know what's good for you, okay? The Ace of Swords is all about mental processes. It's about communication. It's about how we arrive at a solution or how we arrive at a decision. So in the emotional realm, everything is very clear cut, okay? Things are very concise. There is a right and there's a wrong. There is, I feel like there's a situation where things are very black and white, okay? Things are very black and white here. We have the High Priestess, the white pillar and the black pillar. And I feel like there is definitely a right and wrong. So if you detach your emotion from this situation, there's definitely somebody who's in the right, and there's definitely somebody who's in the wrong. However, we could be tainted or influenced or biased by our emotional state. And the person who is in the right could be viewed as the person who's in the wrong because we might have some, emotional hang-ups about that person. And so I feel like there's a situation here where you need to really emotionally detach from it, either spiritually, physically, emotionally, and it might be, all three. Take a step away from it completely in order for you to really come to terms with what it is that is the best course of action between you and this situation, or how you can, whether or not to clearly and cleanly extract yourself from a situation. Because I feel like you're stuck in this holding pattern, this holding cell, okay? And rationally, it makes a lot of sense, right? All those swords, okay? All of those thoughts, all of those ideas, all of those things that have been decided. But I feel like rationally, you've already made up your mind, but emotionally as well, your emotions have not really caught up with the decision that you made. And so you find yourself in this holding pattern, wondering what ifs, okay, like wondering about the what ifs, and wondering like, can this be fixed? Can this be gone back to? I mean, we're already at the Eight of Swords. The inevitable is the Nine of Swords, and then the Ten of Swords, which is the end of a cycle. And so I feel like there's a situation here that has been very, very tenuous, and it's really hard for you to decide when to throw in the towel and decide when to extract your soul. This is also a situation where things are very barren, okay? The ground is barren. Nothing's grown on it. The landscape is barren. It's a desert area. The vegetation, life, and just, these are vultures, right? Waiting for a situation to end so then they can, descend upon this situation and feast. Okay, so it's not looking really pretty, does it? So what I'm seeing here is there is a situation, a possible cycle that is coming to an end, and I feel like you're still in the midst of it, and you might not know how to extract yourself from the situation, or you might not see that. You might not be rationally, mentally, you're seeing this picture, right? And emotionally, you haven't come to terms with the fact that it's the Eight of Swords. The next is the Nine of Swords, which is like nightmares. And the last of the cycle is the Ten of Swords, which is, too much has been said, too much has been done. We cannot go back to it because we are thoroughly hurt. And so I feel like there's a situation here where your spiritual advice is about smartening up, seeing it for what it is, detaching your emotions from this situation to really look at it in an objective way and, be decisive about what you're deciding to do so that you don't, I want to say, spend more time in this holding cell waiting for things to get better when in fact the environment is barren. Okay, it's like the apocalypse. There's no vegetation here. Nothing can grow here. Nothing can be planted and nourished and fostered. And I feel like you are aware of this on a mental level, but emotionally you're not there. Going back to the image that I saw earlier, somebody is like dropping hints along the way. Okay, and I feel almost like this could be a physical person who has, made an escape away from home. And they're like, will they find me? Will the other person put in the effort to reach out to me? If they reach out to me and I'm, just without my cell phone, how will I know that they are trying to communicate with me? How will I know that they are trying to contact me? And so I feel like in a physical way, somebody could be wanting that validation from you. You could be wanting it from another person. And I feel like somebody is dropping hints along the way so that the other person, hoping and praying that the other person will be along the way or walking in the same route or running across, that person. So I definitely feel here there's a sense of like last ditch attempt. Okay, it's like it seems to me like something's very final and you're just hoping for some type of a last ditch attempt to salvage a situation or for a situation to turn completely around because you don't know what else to do. Okay. I'm also seeing for many of you, and this is a more of a spiritual message. Okay. You are getting signs, objects being moved around in your environment. You are getting signals and, repeating numbers, repeating patterns, showing you the way out of a situation. And I'm sensing that you're heeding the signs. And I feel like some of you might be ignoring the signs because emotionally you want a different outcome. Does that make sense? And so it is really important to ask for signs, ask for validation, because I feel like you're getting a lot of spiritual energy around you, trying to communicate with you, okay? Not in a spooky way, because I feel like you have been praying for some type of a signal. You have been wanting some type of clarity. And I feel like, your guides around you are definitely delivering the signs. And signs are signs can be very subtle, but I feel like for you guys, in this case, subtlety is not the way that they want to approach this. So your spirit guides are going to be very clear about the messages that they want to deliver to you, and the signs are going to be quite obvious. Okay, so look for patterns, look for like objects leading towards a certain path. Look especially at objects strewn about in a path that you're trying to take, okay? And I feel like there's a situation here that you're not getting clarity on because of your emotional state, or because you're emotionally invested in a specific outcome. And as a result of it, you might be seeing the signs, you might be seeing, all the synchronicities, but you're not really accepting that's where things are headed. Does that make sense? So what I'm also feeling as well is there's a lot of communication when it comes to family, when it comes to old friends, when it comes to reunions, and people coming in for you. Okay, so we have a lot of celebrations with the Four of Wands. This is a very good card. We have as well family energy with the Judgment card. This is the day of reckoning, things being brought to light and people coming together, okay? I usually see this card as like rescue, okay? Like that SOS, a distress signal has been sent out. Somebody coming in to kind of like alleviate the situation. So I feel like, if you have been wondering, and if you have been kind of like sending out the distress signals, I need help, I need some guidance, I need some advice, I need some counsel, I need like clarity, whatever it is that has had you very, very muddled and wound up in a situation, okay? You're going to be getting some messages and reprieve and help and assistance, and a person coming into the picture in order to slash through the fog and slash through the confusion, and to provide you with a set of tools so that you can free yourself and you can move on. Okay, so I definitely feel like it's coming in, it's very swift, and it's going to be very final. I'm seeing here there's a wrapping up or a finality of a situation, and it looks really wonderful. It looks to me like it could be family, it could be like reconciliation with family members that have been estranged for a really long time, and it's coming about very swiftly. I'm also seeing some medical breakthroughs for many of you. I'm also seeing like successfully signing some type of documents that have been, you've been kept in the dark, and now things are coming to light, and there's like signature is what I'm sensing, okay? Like leaving a paper trail, okay? So signatures, finalizing documents, perusing documents, and things like that. And so so that's what's coming through with the first 6 cards here. What I do feel as well, in the middle of the spread, we have here the Queen of Wands and the High Priestess, okay? So this indicates to me night and day, okay? The daytime and the nighttime. And I'm drawn to the black and white here with the pillars. I'm also drawn to the black and white with the doves, okay? The black doves coming down and the white doves freeing themselves. So there's a lot here to be said about, dichotomy, about opposites, okay? About two people who are like different, like night and day. And so the message that I'm getting here is I feel like there is a situation here where you might not be getting through to another person, or the other person might not be getting through to you. And even if, and Cancers, you give people a lot of slack and you give people a lot of leeway. You do. You're very, very understanding and unimposing of other people. You're not, the sign that wants people to change. You accept people for the way that they are, okay? And I feel like there might have been a situation where two people are just, it's like opposites attract, okay? But then opposites also repel, right? And when we're not very, I guess, like compatible with another person, it can create a situation where they're seeing things through their own worldview and you're seeing things through yours. And there's very little commonality to allow the two of you to see eye to eye. There's very little commonality to allow the two of you to kind of like agree on things on a fundamental level. You know, where should we leave the table? Where should we leave the couch? Do we leave the toilet seat up or down? Like all these little things, these jarring, you know, everyday things become difficult. Planning for the future becomes difficult. Planning a trip, planning a vacation, planning a life together, navigating each other's energies when you're sharing space, when you're sharing a home, when you're sharing a bedroom, when you're sharing, you know, just common space, common office space too. I feel like it's just, it's a little bit difficult. Some of you are dealing with someone who's very, very caring, very loving, and very generous, okay? This is a card about generosity here. We have this fairy godmother or this grandmother who loves very unconditionally, okay? This is someone who's like, when you've had a bad day, they will come in and they will soothe away all your trouble. They will cook for you, they will clean for you, they will nourish you, and cancers love to be fed and love to be nourished. Okay, so for cross watchers, just a hint. I feel like you've got somebody who is a very amazing character. Okay, on their best days, they're very loving, very nurturing, and just, you know, phenomenal. And then on their bad days, they could be prone to mood swings, okay? They get upset very easily. It's the Queen of Wands, so this is fire energy. And it's somebody who's like very proud, very proud. They don't like to be lied to. They don't like to be passed over. In a way, they command attention and they want to be, you know, the apple of your eye. Because I'm drawn to the fruits. They don't want to be passed over. They want to be the one and only. And if they're not the one and only, then they would rather not deal with this situation. And then on the other hand, you have somebody who's very wise, who's very like, this is someone who's very hands-on, okay? So like she's touching the girl, consoling her because she knows the girl is sad. This is somebody who loves in a very detached manner. They're wise beyond their years. Look at the owl. They might not be great around children. They're very detached. They have an air about them that is very distant and very cold and possibly very aloof. I'm getting that you might be dealing with somebody like this. And from your perspective, you're just like, this is a person who thinks they know everything, like a know-it-all. But I feel like there's some truth and there's some wisdom to the things that they do know. Okay, there's like some truth to what they know. There are truths to what they are saying. And so this is somebody that deserves to be revered. Their advice deserves to be followed. And so I'm hearing like heed the advice. Be cool and collected, okay? And especially like heeding that intuition, listening to your inner voice, and really listen. And if you're asking the question, you know, is it going to get better? I feel like you might already know the answer to it. That we're in the Eight of Swords, and I feel like something is closing out its cycle. And so this is the advice to emotionally detach yourself so that you can come to this space of higher wisdom and to be able to understand what you need to do. So really respect that higher wisdom. Really respect the signs that you've been getting. If you acknowledge one sign, okay, if you're asking for a sign and it comes to you in the physical realm, and if you trust it, and you can ask like, can you give me another sign? It'll come to you. But you need to trust it, and you need to respect that the signs are coming in, and you have to trust it. All right. So what I'm seeing here is a situation where emotional detachment is going to do wonders, and I feel like it's the right thing to do. What I'm feeling here is the energy of two people who are like very, very different, very night and day. You have somebody who's a goal-getter, who is possibly a little bit more, you know, very type A, but a little bit more emotionally volatile. And then we have a situation where the other person is very cool and calm and collected, like a placid lake, okay? Like just still on the surface, there is just still water. And underneath, they're very, very detached. And I feel like for some of you, this could be, one of you. I'm sensing that this could be you, and this could be like a significant other that you are dealing with, or another person that you're dealing with. If it's like a family situation that you're not able to get through to the other person is very proud. When you're dealing with someone like this, the best thing that you have to do is kind of like stroke their ego. If you're trying to get them to see your point of view, you have to acknowledge their point of view first, even if you don't agree with it, because what they prefer and what they really crave is to be validated. Don't we all, right? But I feel like with this person, the best approach is, okay, I see what you're saying, but here's what I'm proposing. And so that will let them know that you were listening to them. That will also let them know that you have thought about what they've said, to validate what they've said, to kind of like verbalize and reiterate that you understand, where they're coming from. And so rather than shutting them down right off the bat, because I feel like this person's got a lot of pride, okay? And that love, that attention that they lather upon people when they love that person, I feel like it can be turned, and then they can grow very, very distant when their pride has been pricked. Okay, so I feel like there's a situation here where two people are really no longer sharing the same sky, no longer sharing the same household, no longer sharing the same dreams and aspiration. I'm seeing distance, a lot of like emotional distance, as well as like geographical distance separating the two people. One person wants to come back and make amends, okay? This is a card about sailing away from troubled water, wanting to smooth things out, wanting to be the peacekeeper. And I feel for many of you, this might be your energy because you're very good at this. You're very conflict avoidant. You're very much like, the peacemaker. And I feel that there are so many more things that you want to say. You want to, voice your opinion. You want to like, I feel like even when you're upset, you remain very calm, or you retreat. You don't succumb to verbal diarrhea. You don't succumb to, explosive, intense, emotional expressions. Because I feel like your emotional state rarely gets to that point where you boil over. And so you might have been playing the peacemaker for a very, very long time. And then I also feel like, you're thinking about giving it another try. You're thinking about going back into the situation. I feel like the other person is yearning for something new, and they're yearning for, a new experience. They're looking at other options that might be out there. They're possibly thinking about travel. They're possibly thinking about, a land far away. So there's a situation here. And this is a card greatly about, nostalgia, longing for something, yearning for something, missing another person. And as well, thinking about the life that we could have had, or a life that we used to have. Thinking about a situation, how it should have unfolded versus the reality of how it unfolded. Thinking about a situation and looking at it as if it has a lot of potential. And then feeling a little bit stuck. So we have here the Two of Wands. And then the Two of Swords, indecisiveness. I feel like there's somebody in your midst who is waiting for contact, waiting for you to be the initiator, waiting for some type of, what I'm getting here is just this really intense longing. Intense, okay? It's like, why isn't that person making a move? Why isn't that person communicating? Why is that person closed off? And why are they turning their back? What are they waiting on? What is like what is coming in for them, what is happening to them. So there might be geographical distance separating you and a situation or a person, and you're wondering what's happening over there. You're wondering if you're missing out on anything. You're wondering if they're going to reach out. You're wondering if they're going to, let down those swords and kind of like bring you into the fold, okay? And you're wondering on the course of action that you need to take. I'm feeling here there is a very strong soul connection that we have with one another. And we have here the Two of Cups. One person is very much sure that this is a solid relationship. This is a soulmate connection. This is the person that I'm meant to be with. One person is very, 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 very sure of this. And one person is willing to put in the work in order to make it a reality. Then I'm also sensing the other person is looking for signs and validation. They're looking for that openness and that expression from you so that they know you're coming in for them. Okay, so I'm sensing here this Two of Cups energy is very much under the current, okay? It's like very subtle. There isn't any talking, there isn't any communication, but you feel this pull towards one another. And I feel like, if it's an existing relationship, even in the worst of it or in the thick of it, the two of you still very much, you care about one another and you want the other person to do well. So there's a situation here where I feel like one person wants to explore other territories and the other person wants to go back and fix it. And depending on what side of the coin you're in, I am guided to, flip up the last card underneath the deck. And what we have here is the Eight of Cups. And this is a situation we have invested a lot of time, a lot of resources, a lot of emotional resources, financial resources in. And we feel this sense of visceral pain. It's like, getting punched in the gut, where you're just like, okay, wake up from this. And this is a situation I don't want to experience anymore. And then I'm also feeling like there's a lot of regrets with this card, where when you think about the other person, not only are you thinking about what transpired between you and the other person, you're also thinking about how much I'm getting, how much pain the other person is in. So I'm feeling a very strong psychic and even like a very strong empathic link between you and another person, where you feel what they feel and you don't want them to experience the pain. And so you might be kind of like, I'm sensing a mesh with the other person to the point where you take on the responsibilities to take care of them. And we all need to go through and learn our life's lesson. And I feel like you're subsidizing it. You're helping them through it because you don't want them to experience certain things when it's their destiny. It's their soul's purpose, or it will greatly, it's almost like their soul needs to grow through all these hardships in order to be the best person that they can be. But along the way, you might have steered them away from these obstacles or these hardships or these situations because you didn't want them to experience it. And now you're starting to realize that what you're doing might have been detrimental, okay? You did it out of love. You did it out of, kindness and not wanting the other person to experience these things. But I feel like there is a sense of things backfiring where it is important to really emotionally detach from a situation, okay? There is definitely a really strong soul connection here. I feel like for some of you, there is a lack of communication, a blockage in communication. I'm seeing both parties leaving little breadcrumbs so that they can be found, leaving little hints here and there, leaving a paper trail so that they can be traced, so that the other person can find them if need be. I'm feeling that it's very subtle, and I'm feeling like both parties want to be found, both parties want to come back together. And I'm feeling as well, you're looking at somebody who you feel might be a soulmate connection, they're potentially very far away, and you're wondering if they are in another connection, if they're in another relationship. I would advise you to reach out, because I feel like this situation is like, you know how you haven't seen like a really someone in like 5 or 10 years, and you can still pick up where you left off. This is what it feels like. So I feel like if you're wondering about that person, um, communication needs to be initiated from your end, okay? And then I'm also seeing as well a situation where somebody is doing something in the midst of like anger. And I feel like they're angry, but they're also hurt. Okay, so it's like a mixture of like, I'm upset with you, but I'm also hurt by your actions. And then as a result of it, they do something a little bit drastic, something unexpected. Okay, something very swift, unexpected. But it's coming from a space where they're just like angry and hurt, and just, a mixture of emotions that they're a little bit confused about too. And so I feel like something was done out of character, something that you didn't think would happen, something that you wouldn't think they would say, or something that they wouldn't do. And then I feel like it's leaving a lot of regrets, and you want to fix the situation. You want to make it better. And I feel like, give it some time. They're going to cool off, and they're going to come back. Okay, so there's a sense of like homecoming, people coming back into the picture. What the breadcrumbs or the paper trail that was left behind will be found, and the other person will be chased, or will be coming back into the fold. Okay, I would say be a little bit patient if you're dealing with things from this end. Okay, communication needs to be initiated from your end. And then I feel like there's a situation here where you're trying to break free. And for some of you, I'm feeling that you want to break free from restrictions. And I don't see like third parties at all. Okay, I just feel like responsibilities, things piling up on you, and you just want to like, it feels like you wish all your responsibilities were like a coat. You can cast it off and just go and, have fun. But there's a lot of responsibilities here, and you feel a little bit tied down and a little bit stuck. There's a lot of success as well, and I feel like, you understand that working diligently, that success comes with a lot of hard work, and you're thankful for it. But some days, the responsibilities that are bearing upon you can feel a little bit overwhelming. Okay, so that's what I'm seeing here. I do hope the reading has been helpful. In a reading, I'm no longer doing private readings, but I do have a colleague. Her name is Bridget. She is a phenomenal psychic. She's based out of California. If you're interested in booking a reading for yourself or for people that you know, I highly recommend that you book a reading through her. I've included a link in the description box below for her scheduling website. Okay, so I will be back for the monthly reading next month, okay? And I wish you the best. Bye-bye.